I want to bring in Barry Levine, who has covered the Jeffrey Epstein story for years. He is the author of an excellent book, The Spider, Inside the Criminal Web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So, the release of the emails yesterday, when you looked at those and you want to tell my audience what to focus on, sort of to separate the signal from the noise, what advice would you give them?
Well, Major, I was looking for two things. One, of course, and I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times back in the summer, what I would look for answers in the Epstein files. It's unfortunate that it took the Oversight Committee to step around the DOJ and go to Jeffrey Epstein's estate and subpoena the emails that we saw yesterday. But I'm looking for two things. And one, of course, which is on the minds of everyone, is what exactly was the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump? And I think that we learned some startling news from that. And also, I'm looking for additional names of men that could possibly be prosecuted who aided Jeffrey Epstein in his sex trafficking. And I think we learned a little bit of both yesterday.
And in the emails, it is quite clear that Jeffrey Epstein had a wide, almost incalculably wide circle of associates, people who were celebrities, people who were either in foreign governments or leaders of foreign governments, business tycoons, and the like. What does that tell you? You probably knew most of that, but did you find anything revelatory there?
Well, Major, I think it reinforced the research that I did on my book, that Jeffrey Epstein has always viewed himself as smarter than everybody else, and he also has collected people all along the way, particularly over the 2 decades through his sex trafficking. And that was always to get secrets and bits of information about individuals that he could pass to other people. He trafficked in this. And that was something that we saw in the emails. I mean, here he was offering up what he called insight into Donald Trump to the Russians, to Putin. So this man, of course, he was a monster. The sexual abuse and the rapes of these underage girls for 2 decades. But at the same time, this man was able to communicate with people very close to heads of state who were taking information from him seriously. It just shows you how diabolical Jeffrey Epstein was.
Did you read, Barry, in those emails evidence of complicity with Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, I think that there was possible complicity involving some of the statements that he made in some of the emails to individuals. Again, there was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling agency when Donald Trump ran that agency. It's not to say that there was wrongdoing on the part of Trump's modeling agency, but it is interesting how both Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were moving in the same circles with enablers for both of their agencies.
I want to play for you sound, Barry, from Michael Wolff, the author we talked about earlier in the program on the Daily Beast podcast. Please listen.
Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had this deep relationship. They knew everything about each other, and then they fell out with enormous acrimony. But for more than a decade, that's what they were doing, and their obsession was women, girls, models.
Barry, evaluate that. I've got about a minute.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much is true. Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump partied together. They entertained women together, particularly back in the 90s at Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere in Palm Beach and New York. That is not surprising. What, of course, is most interesting from the emails is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein claims that Donald Trump knew about him and the women. And of course, this is something that is a question in terms of, did Donald Trump really know about Jeffrey Epstein's conduct, When did he learn that, if so? And did he do anything to report that information to authorities?
And we do not have, Barry, to your point, clarity on that question of what knowing means,
Yes.
what knowing represents, and what knowing might portend as this goes forward, either judicially or politically. Barry Levine, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Major.